Hi guys, thank you for joining me. I stopped reporting a lot of world events because of the censoring on YouTube, but I thought this was important. In New Zealand yesterday, there was an attack. 7 people were injured, 3 critically, after Sansudine attacked shoppers at the Countdown supermarket in West Auckland's LynnMall just before 3 p.m. on Friday yesterday. He has been identified as Ahmed Athil Mohammed Sansudine. The ISIS-inspired terrorist was under surveillance by police before the attack, etc., and he was shot dead by officers about 2 minutes after the attack began. Evidently, the government is now trying to explain why deportation hadn't happened, even though he had a lengthy police record. The Muslim man arrived in New Zealand in 2011 and was granted refugee status in 2013. He had claimed to have been tortured in Sri Lanka and had issues with authorities there due to his political background. In 2018, he was notified that his visa would be revoked, and he challenged it. On Saturday night, the Prime Minister said Immigration New Zealand had been trying to deport him for years. In February of 2019, his refugee status was canceled. And in April that year, he appealed his deportation while he was in prison, evidently. He was evidently in prison for 3 years. He was placed on the terrorist watch list in 2016. Laws there in New Zealand prevented him from being in prison, but he was under heavy surveillance at the time the attack was carried out. A covert police tactical group had been following the man closely as possible without being detected, and they immediately responded to the attack within about 60 seconds, they said, when the man evidently took a large butcher knife off of one of the store shelves and began stabbing people. They evidently had been watching his home. They had followed him from his home to this grocery store. 2 of the people that the man attacked are in serious condition. One was stabbed in the head, and another one was stabbed in the stomach. The attacker evidently was under constant surveillance and had gone to the supermarket from his Glen Ellen property without incident. After he stabbed the people, they quickly took him down, firing at least 5 shots. The New Zealand Herald reported that this man that carried out the attacks is the same ISIS sympathizer who allegedly planned a lone wolf knife attack in Auckland earlier this year. Back then, he couldn't be charged as a terrorist because he was preparing a terrorist attack, and it was not deemed an offense under New Zealand counter-terrorism legislation. He was instead prosecuted on a lesser charge. In a search of his apartment led them to the discovery of what's called restricted publications and a hunting knife. He was charged with possession of these things. He pled guilty of knowingly distributing restricted publications, fraud, and failing to assist police in the execution of their search. In September of 2018, he was sentenced to 12 months supervision in relation to the first set of charges. And evidently he remained in prison due to additional charges he committed while on bail. In 2020, he was charged with having the knife, but evidently the High Court threw those charges out. And then July 6th, he was sentenced to 12 months of supervision with special conditions, I guess, to be watched and followed. I bet that was spendy to have people watching him, following him wherever he went. I mean, they knew he was enough of a threat to follow him around, yet he was still allowed out on the streets where he committed this violent attack. Altogether, I guess he spent 3 years in jail, but all the legal avenues, they say, to continue his detention had been exhausted, and then he was released. And now the rest is history. Yeah, it seems like criminals have more rights than the average citizen. YouTube more than likely will censor this, and it raises a lot of questions with now coming from Afghanistan. So many people, and they are supposedly vetted. I've heard they're coming in with child brides, which means it was okay that they came to our country with child brides. This man here was in New Zealand for 10 years before he did his act of violence. Not a sleeper cell, a lone wolf, ISIS inspired evidently. Coming over on a student visa, just 22 years old, and then claiming asylum. So what are your thoughts? Put your comments down below. Thank you for your support. Please share. Like I said, I am being censored by YouTube. Please stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. God bless you. Bye.